10 signs that the mainstream media is not telling you the truth about the economy. Michael Snyder reports. If you believe the corporate media, the U.S. economy is doing absolutely great as we start to roll through the second half of 2023. Even though inflation is out of control, the commercial real estate market is in free fall, corporate bankruptcies are surging, and large businesses all over America are conducting mass layoffs, we are being told that everything is just peachy. For example, the following comes from a recent NPR article entitled, "What Recession? It's the summer of splurging, profits, and girl power," whatever that means. The numbers are in, and things look surprisingly rosy for the U.S. economy. The Federal Reserve is still cautious, but big brands, including Coca-Cola, Hilton, and Visa, are singing praises to shoppers seemingly undeterred by companies raising prices. What's more, Taylor Swift, Beyoncé, and Barbie are enticing people to part with their money, bolstering local businesses. Yes, girl power is supposedly saving the U.S. economy. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Unfortunately, it just is not true, and here are 10 signs that the mainstream media is not telling the truth about the economy. Number 1, when the economy is doing well, there is a tremendous demand for trucking, but when the economy is tanking, trucking companies often get into serious trouble. So it is a very bad sign that one of the country's oldest and largest trucking businesses is literally on the brink of collapse. Yellow, one of the country's oldest and largest trucking businesses, is preparing to file for bankruptcy and may collapse within days, leaving some 30,000 workers without jobs. The nearly 100-year-old company is known for its competitive pricing and has more than 12,000 trucks shipping freight across the U.S. from brands including Walmart and Home Depot. According to the Wall Street Journal, the company is preparing to file for bankruptcy and is in the process of selling off other parts of the business. Number 2, you can add Anheuser-Busch to the rapidly growing list of large companies that are conducting mass layoffs. Anheuser-Busch, the parent company of Bud Light, announced it was laying off 350 employees, many of them in corporate positions, as it seeks to recover from the fallout over a campaign involving a trans influencer. Number 3, the number of large corporate debt defaults so far this year has already exceeded the grand total for the entire year of 2023. Corporate debt defaults. The total amount of corporate debt defaults in the United States this year have already exceeded the amount seen in 2022. Experts have been warning of a wave of defaults to hit the economy for some time due to higher borrowing rates. At least 55 American-based companies defaulted on their loans in the first half of 2023, according to data from Moody's Investors Services. That is a 53% increase from the total number of defaults last year, when just 36 companies said they would fail to repay their debt obligations to lenders. And number 4, the cost of living continues to soar. CNBC is reporting that vehicle repair costs have risen by nearly 20% over the past 20 months. Car repair costs are up almost 20% in the past year, according to the Consumer Price Index, more than 6 times the national inflation rate, and among the largest annual price increases of any household goods or service. So what's driving up the prices? It's a combination of factors, experts said, some emerging in the pandemic area, while others are longer-term trends in the auto market, they said. Number 5, more than 750,000 households in the state of California are behind on their rent, and now it appears that a tsunami of mass evictions is coming. More than 768,000 households are behind on rent in the Golden State, with debts totaling more than $5 billion, putting approximately 721,000 children at risk of eviction, according to the National Equity Atlas, a collaborative data and analytics tool founded by Oakland-based PolicyLink and the University of Southern California Equity Research Institute. Residents in the city of Los Angeles are facing a deadline of August 1st to repay all rental debt accrued between March 2020 and September 2021, with that from October 2021 to January 31st, 2023, due by February 2024. Number 6, electric vehicles were supposed to be the wave of the future, but Ford is going to lose $4.5 billion on electric vehicles this year alone. Ford Motor Company announced it is projected to lose a whopping $4.5 billion for electric vehicles, EVs, this year, up from the previous projected loss of $3 billion. The company released its second quarter financial results on Thursday. The US-based automaker's EVs division, called Ford Model E, has lost $1.8 billion so far this year, according to Fortune magazine. Number 7, a yield curve inversion normally means that a recession is coming, and right now the yield curve is the most inverted that it's been in more than 40 years. How big is big when it comes to the latest inversion? To measure the magnitude of the inversion, a time series of the gap between the yields on a long-term and short-term is calculated. The most common used measure of this is the gap between 10-year Treasury and 3-month Treasury. If we graph this difference between the 10-year and 3 months, we can see that we are now experiencing the largest inversion in more than 40 years. Number 8, just like we saw in 2008, home foreclosures are starting to surge. Home foreclosures have shot up for the second year in a row as concerns grow that owners are sitting on a negative equity time bomb. Figures from data firm ATTOM show that around 186,000 foreclosures have been filed in the first 6 months of that year. The trend is being driven by an uncertain housing market and soaring mortgage rates. Number 9, I have repeatedly warned my readers that we are in the early stages of the worst commercial real estate crisis in U.S. history, and now one expert is comparing it to a Category 5 hurricane. Starwood Capital Group's Barry Sternlicht recently told Bloomberg's David Rubenstein about the ongoing crisis in the commercial real estate sector, equating it to a severe Category 5 hurricane. He cautioned this sort of a blackout hovering over the entire industry until we get some relief or some understanding of what the Fed's going to do over the longer term. Currently, the biggest problem with the CRE space is sliding office and retail demand in downtown areas. Couple that with high interest rates, and there's a disaster lurking for building owners. Number 10, according to Challenger Gray and Christmas, the number of announced job cuts in the United States during the first half of this year was 244% higher than the number of announced job cuts during the first half of last year. Employers have announced 458,209 cuts so far this year, a 244% increase from the 133,211 cuts announced through June 2022. It's the highest first half total since 2020, when 1,585,047 cuts were recorded. With the exception of 2020, it's the highest January to June total since 2009, when 896,675 job cuts were announced. Considering all of the facts that I just shared with you, how in the world could anyone possibly claim that the U.S. economy is heading in the right direction? It just doesn't make any sense. Of course, those that work for the mainstream media can write anything that they want, but that does not mean that we have to believe them. We live in a time of great deception, and it's only going to get worse. If you think that things are bad now, just wait until we get to this time next year. With the presidential election looming, the mainstream media will be desperate to portray the Biden administration in a good light, but no amount of spin can change the truth. The U.S. economy really is in big trouble, and very dark storm clouds are gathering on the horizon. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, "My name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.